Good afternoon, everybody. We have been selected by Eric Selak to have the first showing outside of Pennsylvania. Well, you'll get the whole history, but the game has been sitting in Pennsylvania with a great story behind it. A story that not all games made by major manufacturers are designed in house, and this is a great example. And it's also an example of a game that got turned down for some reason. And I know there's been a lot of interest. So, Eric, let's hear that story that we've been waiting so long to hear.
Thank you, Dave. So my name is Eric Selak. I'm from York, Pennsylvania, and used to run the White Rose Game Room show for 16 years. It still goes on to this day. But the factor of York and where I found the game is actually in Middletown, Pennsylvania, about an hour north of me. And the three designers actually didn't start with critical mass. This was just three college guys trying to come up with some kind of concept and just make a game. And what they actually came up with was Black Hole. So you wonder, okay, well, this is a Gottlieb game. How did they even start with this? So there's a lot of little details to go over, and it's going to be a lot of little nitpick information, but bear with me. I'll try not to go too fast on this, So yeah, it's unscripted too. So if you're familiar with New Wave Toys at all, they make replicate video games, and they're also doing a pinball machine as well. It's a miniature pinball machine that you can purchase for $200. It doesn't play. It is the Gottlieb Black Hole. And as I'm scrolling down through here, it shows some information about the Black Hole pinball machine, released in October of '81, and the game designers are Adolf, John, and Terry. Okay, well, were they the designers of the Black Hole for Gottlieb? Yes. Were they the original designers of the Black Hole? No. Black Hole started off on a napkin at a Brown's Bar and Pub in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, where three college guys, Jerry, Jim, and Joe, you'll hear these names repeated throughout the seminar here, got this wild idea to come up with a black hole pinball machine. So what you're looking at, and most of these pictures nobody's ever seen before, is their pencil sketch of how to come up with a black hole playfield, how to put in a lower playfield, and what their design. They actually had it suspended from the upper playfield, by the way. Some very, very crude artwork. If you notice that some of the stuff in the production run game, like the swirl up in the upper left-hand corner, actually had drop targets that you would actually hit, but they didn't have enough room to put this stuff in. And here's their full pencil sketch. You can see the drop targets a little bit better on that. Yeah. Yeah, no wonder they didn't have enough room to put all that stuff in. So they wound up making an actual game. And why do I have this slide up here? Oh, so they stopped at Brothers Brown. The moment of Black Hole's conception did indeed happen in the early afternoon at Brothers Brown, a bar and local night spot with a good selection of pinball machines. Anyway, this was an email that I got from Joe back in 2005. I was working on an article for a pinball magazine at the time and was in contact with him. And I've already thought of one thing that I'll have to mention. So this was Jerry, Joe, and Jim's prototype Black Hole. No head, no scoring. I think they had some power to the flippers and maybe the bumpers and kickers, but that was about it. This shot's pretty interesting. But you can barely see it in the background, but they built this game in Jerry's mother's kitchen. And so anyway, they took this game to Williams. Williams said, we're doing a double level playfield game like Black Knight or Jungle Lord. And they actually went to Bally, and Bally's like, your artwork sucks. We aren't interested in that. Neat concept. And then they went to Gottlieb, and Gottlieb said, this game isn't leaving our plant. This is an awesome concept. We never heard of anything like this before. So that's how it turned into a production run machine. This was the original interoffice correspondence for the Black Hole. This was like the test. The test, and compared to, like at the bottom it says Williams Jungle Lord and Bally's Embryon. They took the Black Hole before they actually ran it in production and put it in the field. Again, you'll have to bear with me. I know we're not the critical mass yet, but we'll have to go with the flow on this. So, Williams Farrow, Stern split second. Received the lowest ratings. Well, that's up to the Gottlieb people that are writing this inter-office correspondence. You can read between the lines on that. And here's some players that were interviewed in different cities and towns. And some of the people down at the bottom, their names from Gottlieb. And G. Pollock, Gil Pollock. Now, that name's going to come up again near the very end. So you'll see why. Here's the earnings reports for the Black Hole. So we'll zoom in a little bit. Yeah, nobody's seen this stuff before, but Jerry, Joe, and Jim did, because it was really their machine that they had the concept for. So let me elaborate a little bit on Jerry. Jerry is what I consider the talking head of the group. Actually, he's more of the spokesperson, but his job was to sell the concept. Like I say, he's the talking head. He's to sell the concept. Joe is an engineer, a designer through and through. He still works on certain redemption games to this day. He's self-employed. And unfortunately, Jim, he wound up just sort of not really getting into it anymore. Once Critical Mass started, he was like, I got other stuff to do. I'm out of college now. I'm got to get with the program and start my life. So he sort of disappeared. Well, when you go to Gottlieb with a concept machine and you decide that you're going to make another game, well, how about we use your parts, and we need the drawings. So Gottlieb actually gave them, this was just one picture that Jerry left me take. This is a 3-ring binder full of hundreds of different prints and drawings. This one says copyright 1953 on it. This is just a kicker assembly and how to lay out the holes, above and below the playfield to actually make a kicker. You know, circuit boards, targets, spot targets, anything they wanted. They just picked up the phone and called up Gottlieb and said, "Hey, I need this," you know, and all these parts. It's ridiculous, right? It's hard to imagine. So I probably do in a pile of paperwork that I've accumulated, but for the presentation, I didn't. I did no, no, no. You're fine. Hey, oh yeah, that yeah they 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 did. Yeah, I can elaborate a little bit of what I've read. So they would say something like the upper right drop target bank on black hole was the least favorite feature of the machine, but the upper left eject hole, people really like that for some reason. I don't know. That shot doesn't really do anything for me, but yeah, I guess when back in '81 when the game came out, that was something that was different, and interesting. Yeah, it was ridiculous. Yeah, but that's a good question. Uh, the second game they decided to make was this one, and this is in the barn. Uh, this was a it was called Dragon's Lair, and it was a three-level game. This is the only picture that I asked Jerry if he still had this. Like I need another hole in the head or another game to work on. Uh, no, he threw this thing away. So it doesn't exist. This is the only picture I got left of it. It's still sitting in the barn. And oh yeah. So one thing I forgot to mention. So my email address at the time when I was running the show was blackholepinball at AOL. And when I was running the show, I had my email address on the web page and my phone number. And Jerry called me up one day and said, "Hey, can you work on a black hole pinball machine?" I said, "No, yeah, I've done 2 or 3 in my time." "Well, I got one that hasn't worked in 20 years. Okay. So he brought the game down to me from Middletown down to York, and I worked on it for 6 months. This was a basket case. It was completely dead. And I got it working, but I noticed the serial number was extremely high. I've never seen a serial number so high in my life on these games. I didn't know it went up that high. Didn't know anything about it. Jerry never led on to any of this stuff until I delivered the game back to him, and he says, "Hey, come down to the barn. I got something to show you." And I saw this game, and I was like, "What the heck's this?" And of course, Gottlieb said, "Well, we're already developing a three-level game, so this Dragon's Lair machine, you know, yeah." So they abandoned the Dragon's Lair, and Gottlieb came out with Haunted House. So this was so they decided to build a critical mass pinball machine, and this was one of the first paperwork items that Jerry had to deal with. It's all legal tender. This was their correspondence between Jerry's last name is Yingst, by the way. That's why it says Gottlieb and Yingst. This was in April of '81 that they were going to hold on to the critical mass pinball machine and uh, see if they were interested in what they had. They were just doing concepts, little toys, little features on the play field, just to mess around. Sort of the wind was out of their sail when they abandoned Dragon's Lair. They were just trying for something. They made some good money on the black hole. They got royalties out of it, saw the check. I mean, I saw the check with my own eyes. Jerry showed it to me. It was over $1 million. Swear to God. And it was like, are you serious? Yeah, yeah. It was. Anyway, that was a flashback. I do. I actually darkened it up and put it down to. It looks like January 13th of '82. I had to get Jerry's permission to make photocopies of this stuff. You know, because when you're dealing with the Gottlieb name, everything has to be just right. You know, you try to hose over Gottlieb in any way, shape, or form. Like you can't copy a manual and put it on eBay. You know, they'll come after you. This the entity is still there, registered trademarks, copyrights, and all that stuff. You you try to pull one over on Gottlieb, and you're playing with fire. I guarantee it. So this was what critical mass looked like. And you can see the cupboards in the background. That's still Jerry's mom's kitchen. Must be nice to build a game in your mom's kitchen. So I'll try to zoom in a little bit here for you. This is way this is what it was when now they had the programming, they had the computer software to make the code, and they had one soundboard in it, and it just had a little beep of sound and one speech line, which the game I still have. The game that's over here in the showcase room now still has that, plus a couple other speech lines. And so this is the way I found it in the barn. It's sat since '82. I found this in 2001. Yeah, yeah, right. This is a rat's nest in the lower playfield. There's dead mice in there. Yeah, yeah. That's mice pee all over the playfield. Disgusting, isn't it? Oh, it's terrible. It's terrible. Now, who in their right mind would actually look at this and say, "I can rebuild that, Jerry"? Guilty as charged. I wish I had somebody standing next to me saying, "What are you thinking? Were you smoking something before you came up here?" You know. Now the reason I found this was Jerry still never led on to him even working on the black hole or his group or anything being involved with Gottlieb. He just had this sitting there since '82. And I'm the one that took it. Oh yeah, I got some more juicy pictures for you. See what the mice did to the transformer. I guess wax paper tastes good. They got poo all over the place too. What a wreck. The original cabinet was a James Bond cabinet. I don't think James Bond sold too well back in the day because it didn't use like a ball feature. It was based on time. And well, anyway, Gottlieb had tons of these leftover James Bond cabinets, and that's what they put it in. And here's some homemade wiring under the playfield as well. It's just a mess. There it is, a little cleaned up. Still has the mice nest in the bottom lower playfield. So I think most of these pictures are just random shots of. It's still in the barn. You can see the wood rafter next to it. And there's the mouse nest gone. Yeah. So those two displays in the sitting on my workbench reminds me. So when Jerry told me that uh, he was involved with the black hole and the critical mass and Gottlieb in general, he said that him and Joe got the last two black hole pinball machines off the production run. And that explained why the serial numbers were so high. And I tried to find a picture. I took a picture of this and I couldn't find it. I searched in vain. Those two displays have serial numbers on them and they're consecutive. So somebody stole a display out of Jerry stole out of Joe's game a display or vice versa. I, yeah. Anyway, so they were the last two games and they each got one of the black hole. Oh, that's the display board. That's what that looked like. That's a mess. So now I know not everybody's into the electronics or no electronics here. So, if you want to talk more about electronics and everything, hey, I'm more than happy to answer your questions on that. We can go over to the next room and open up the game and you can take pictures and ask a million questions. That's fine. I'm here to answer everything I possibly can about the game. Plus, it's once in a lifetime opportunity at this show. So so code for a game is in an EEPROM. It's just a chip. It has the code for the game. And in the bottom of critical mass, I found one chip and one soundboard with a sound effect and a speech line on it. And the code wasn't complete. It was about 80% complete. So, so now the fun begins. You got to keep everything Gottlieb because these chips, these EEPROMs, are copyrighted material, and the sticker that would normally be over this window, which is how you erase the code, is you blast UV light into the chip and it erases the code, the programming. It's not like a USB thumb drive like we have today. I think this chip holds 16K of memory, not meg, not gig, not even close to terabyte. If you would have said the word terabyte to an engineer back in those days, their head would explode. This is 16K, and it's copyrighted. The tape actually blocks the light from erasing the chip. So what I had to do is figure out, according to Gottlieb, if I wanted their name on the game, I had to be within a couple years of when their game was actually made. So I got a Pinside website is a great place to go to find chronological order of games. So, okay, you can see where black hole and critical mass are, off to the left there. And the years actually go from the bottom up. So 81 to 82 on the top of Haunted House. So knowing that, so the one picture of the lower playfield has all the bonus lights to it. So it's my job to figure out what game is going to be the closest match, only having 80% of the code. What game's going to be the best fit that's going to be a Gottlieb, copyrighted, registered trademark code, or game that's going to be so close to critical mass. I just couldn't plug a chip in because no manual. The wiring harness was all chewed up anyway. So, well, let's start at the top with Haunted House. Well, that doesn't even have bonus lights. It has a display for the bonus on the lower playfield. It's called Monster Bonus. So right away, that's out of the question. Let's try another one. Let's try Black Hole. Well, we're in the same spot. That's not going to work. They had 8 drop targets in the middle of critical mass and 4 drop targets at the top. Haunted House didn't have really much of anything except on the upper playfield. And this game, black hole has 9 drop targets altogether, 5 and 4, and some on the lower playfield. Well, let's try another one. How about volcano? Ooh, we're getting closer. Okay, well, we got 5 drop targets at the top and 5 on the right. And bonus lights. That's sort of close, but I don't know what to do with the critical mass. Don't have a skee ball lane at the top. So we finally get to Mars, God of War. M-A-R-S. The first thing that popped out at me, M-A-S-S. Ah, okay, 4 letters. Mars, mass. All right, let's try something here. Okay, so hey, we have the bonus times and the bonus count. They're a match. So, and it's a 6-digit game too. Okay, so that's the game I chose to actually get the closest to critical mass. So I figured, and when I actually hooked up the EEPROM and started experimenting with like a fake play of critical mass and what I wanted it to do, that 80% was almost exactly 100% of what Mars God of War was. So I could tell, okay, they probably ripped an EEPROM chip out of a Mars God of War somewhere and plugged it in their programming device and said, okay, well, we got most of this done. Phew, well, okay. We don't have to worry about too much code, do we? Well, I guess I still got to 80%, and that was about it. So these next pictures start at the top left playfield and work their way to the right, and then we go down to the left and to the right again. So you can see how I'm trying to incorporate Mars God of War lighting and other items into critical mass, like the 4 green lights there for the word that's going to become mass target, which they actually had penciled over underneath those green lamp inserts as the word mass on it. And I'm trying to lay out some aluminum track and try to figure out how to turn this thing into a playable game. And so I took pictures of this and I sent it to Gottlieb, and Gottlieb was like, no way. You need permission from Jerry and Joe, the original designers, to make any changes whatsoever. Emails, phone calls, trying to get Jerry's and Joe's permission, which they were like, yeah, that's fine. Whatever you want to do is fine with us. We could care less. Okay, thank you. But you could see, and trying to get the approval from Gottlieb and Jerry and Joe were, it was just so difficult. This is what I want to do. Well, I don't know what's your plans for the lower playfield, and what are you doing? So anyway, these pictures show me like filling in the original playfield with wood putty and laying out some kind of design that they were happy with, that I could get away with in a way, but they could give me approval for it. Yeah, just a total mess. I mean, I'm using the original playfield, so here's another question. I get a lot of this. So it's not original. It's not the original playfield. No. Would you want the mice pea soaked playfield with the paint flaking off of it to bring to a show and have somebody play it? No. Well, that was just the top side. I forgot I had bottom side pictures too. I had to rip out their wiring harness and figure out how to lay stuff out. That drop target bank is an 8 drop target bank. That's a Gottlieb part. Has to be all Gottlieb parts. Circuit boards, parts, everything has to be Gottlieb if I'm going to put their get permission to get the Gottlieb name on it. That drop target bank came out of a Hot Shots. And I had to buy the parts from the Pinball Resource because they're the licensee, licensor, whatever. Oh, a bunch of legal stuff, you know. So where do you start? You buy 2 sheets of 4-foot by 8-foot burled maple veneer plywood. It costs $800 for 2 sheets. And you have to get picky because some of them have knots in them. Well, you don't want to have knots on the playfield. Yeah. So, and you experiment how to drill holes for the lamp inserts. Now, my buddy Rick, that I've known from high school, he did all the woodworking. He did all the playfield stuff. That's not me. I'm nowhere close to doing woodworking. Now, electronics I'm okay with, but I left him mess with the blank playfields. He lived in Philadelphia at the time, and we started laying this playfield out by measuring from the top down on the original playfield. He would measure the top down, and I'd throw a number out for, like, say, the 1000 bonus light on the lower playfield. 24 and 11/16 of an inch. And he'd measure that on the blank playfield, make a mark. And I'd come from the left side, and I'd say 6 5/8. He'd make a mark, and he'd write on the playfield in pencil, that's 1000 bonus light. And we stayed up all night till 3 in the morning and transferred the playfield over. God. And he started doing his wood cutting skills. He did this all by hand. He had everything laid out exactly where we wanted it. And the lamp inserts. You just can't go out to your local Home Depot or Lowe's and buy a wood boring spade bit and expect a lamp insert to fit in there exactly right. If it's 1 inch, I guarantee it's not 1 inch. So what you need to do is buy an adjustable spade bit. That's why I put this in here, because this is the kind of tooling Rick needed. I paid for everything out of my own pocket, including the tooling and the time for him to do this. But it was way out of my league. So you actually have to dial this thing in to the exact, size. And we would take the lamp insert and take a crab mallet and tap it in. And if it was snug, we knew we had it. Well, he knew he had it. I didn't know what he was doing. He had this playfield for 4 months, and I'm just trying to work out the electronics at this time. This is more of Rick's handiwork. So this is the playfield as it's sort of coming to life. Yeah. He built some side rails for me. And all the angles and everything, he did this all by hand. He has no drill press. He did this, the round window that you see the lower playfield sort of peeking up at on the right hand side. He did this by hand with a router. I mean, this guy's good. Yeah, just yeah. I swear to God. Yeah. Once I gave him the dimensions, I let him do all the work. Yeah, with the thickness of the window and everything like that. Yeah. I'm not lying. He did all this by hand. You see the knot in the portion of the upper left-hand side? That's why we had to buy 2 sheets. One did not have a knot. This one did, but we picked a spot where the lower playfield wouldn't show a knot. Fuss butts. trying to get it right. There's the that was the original one that I sanded down just to get an idea of what it would look like, and it's slowly coming to life. And there it is in the game. By this time, I had most of the electronics done, but didn't start any wiring yet. In fact, I didn't even undercoat or spray paint the bottom primer yet. So this is how you spray paint the bottom primer. You get some cork and you get some gray spray paint, and I did this in my backyard. And I just spray painted the underneath of the play fields and started putting the parts on one at a time. Each lamp socket, new screws. I'm a fuss ass. I can't help myself. It's all stainless. Go for broke. If you're going to spend money, spend it for the love of the hobby. So there's the underside of the playfield sitting in the game. So one thing I didn't mention is the whole time it took me from beginning to end was 5 years. Right now we're about year 2.5, maybe 3, and slowly, methodically trying to figure out how to wire the thing and make it somewhat playable to the public. It was that point in time I turned into the biggest asshole. Making mistakes at work, bad eating habits, bad sleeping habits, order out for Domino's Pizza, have them deliver it to the back door. My mind was focused on this machine like an obsession. Terrible way to, I think I did snap myself out of most of it, but I still at least worked on it every day for a minimum of like 2 hours because I couldn't help myself. It really sucks when you realize it's 8 o'clock at night and you haven't eaten any dinner, and you get one last pizza showed up by Domino's, and it's like, now it's 1 a.m. I got to get 3 hours sleep and go to work. Jeez. No, you don't. It's, yeah, you got this thought process, and you might have like 3 or 4 things going on at the same time. I got this, I'll remember where I'm at and doing this wiring, but I really need to get these lamp sockets in the head where I want it to create this atom spinning symbol or whatever. And then you work on this, and then you go to work, and you come home, and it's like, where the hell am I? I didn't write anything down. I don't even... Anyway. So the lettering on the cabinet, I had to pay for this font style, and I printed out these letters and the symbols on 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper. And I cut out anything in black with a razor blade. This took me a long, long time. This was just a cabinet design. I asked Joe if it would work. Oh yeah, anything science related, stick and ball atoms and all that good stuff. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I'm like, okay, good. Everything needed approval. Even the letter G. Got to have the registered trademark. So this is all of the 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper taped together with painter's tape. And I would spray paint the cabinet. Let's see, the main cabinet's blue, so blue goes on first. And then I did the black, and then I did the white critical mass. I had to lay all this stuff out, all held together with painter's tape, and held all the 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper together. And that's where you come up with the cabinet art. So there's the cabinet art. Yay. And we're still working on the wiring harness. Still being the world's biggest asshole. But I felt like I got one thing done anyway. I got the cabinet done. Woohoo. And now it's time to lay the stuff out on the upper play field. So here's some marks Now I'm finally transferring. All these are new parts, by the way. Everything's brand new parts. I forgot to mention that. So let me back up a little bit. So when I picked up Critical Mass, I asked Jerry about more of his story with the black hole and if he had any paperwork to go along with it. That's where Gil Pollock's paper from '82, I got the copy of that. And then he said, well, I got parts, because we ordered parts from Gottlieb all this time, to build more games for them. And I said, oh, where are they at? Oh, in my mom's garage. They've been sitting in there since '82. So I said, okay. He says, well, show up in a couple weeks. So I showed up with the company van and went into the garage and had all new plastic posts, all new metal guide rails. All that stuff was in perfect shape, still in the bag and everything, but here's something that'll make you cry. So we get to the circuit boards, and I'm like, oh, cool. Brand new CPU boards, still in the Gottlieb hologram, bubble pack and all that stuff, and open it up for the first time, and it's got battery acid damage, eating holes through it and everything. It's like, this is junk. Couldn't use it. It's a crying shame. Unfortunately, they really just dropped, the ball, so to speak, on working on the game, and everything sat. And Jerry told me, he said, Gottlieb never asked for any of this stuff back. Not even the 3-ring binder with all the drawings and everything in it. So it's still here. If you want to tackle the project, go ahead. Oh, sure. Yeah, sure. I'll tackle the project and beat my brains out. So anyway, we're getting closer to building things. I had to get steel cut and all new parts put in. So now you can see where I'm starting to lay things out a little bit better than the wood-filled original playfield that I had. I'm just sort of going down the list, laying everything out. Let me back up one. So if you notice, the red lamp inserts don't have any letters on them yet. I'm about ready to make a major screw up here. So I'm getting the playfield laid out, putting things in place, and I could actually play the game at this point. There it is, being played, or at least it's in attract mode, so to speak. And it does work. I had to do the apron. So I found an apron in my former job that I was at when I was working on Critical Mass. I was a field service technician for a bunch of different places that did heat treating for turbines and medical equipment, calibration, process control is what I was into. So I got a chance to go to a bunch of different businesses, such as Harley Davidson, Voith Hydro, which makes hydroelectric generator turbines. Anyway, the cool thing was I was able to, after my job was done, to get access to certain things like a glass bead machine. So you find an apron that looks like crap, and you glass bead it, and then you get the paint, and then you get the decals, because there was no way I was going to paint the apron, and get the decals and lay on one color at a time, and try to do these jagged edges with the black without screwing this up. Was just, I got lucky. Oh yeah, well, here's the card that would normally tell you what your replays is. Actually has a chronological list of all the people involved from '82 to 2006. It's on the game. You can take a picture of it. So now I get to realize, I don't have any extra ball, don't have special, I don't have shoot again. I don't even have the words Critical Mass on. So okay, this is what I want. I had some labels made up. The drop targets, I got those. They're like a mask, and on the right hand side is more or less labels itself. Well, the labels never made it on, but the other mask stuff did. So I had to tear everything off of the playfield. Why didn't I do this the first time? I don't know. Maybe because I wasn't thinking. And there's up for debate on this. Did I have the letters screwed up? Was C supposed to be at the top or C at the bottom? I don't know. I got mass right. At least I didn't spell it backwards. So here we go again. Anything that needs to be spray painted black, get out the 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper and pretty much coat 99% of the play field except what you want to spray paint black. Okay. So I was spray painting black. I started working on the head of the game and the electronics, which I'll skip over. I can explain this stuff if you see me, stop me, whatever. We'll get into this. It had to be original Gottlieb circuit boards and code. If it wasn't the original stuff or as close to original as possible, Gottlieb would have never let me put the name on it. And even Jerry asked me, why would you want even Gottlieb's name on it? Well, you don't know until you ask. You know, it was at Gottlieb. You got the paperwork to prove it. You did the same thing with Black Hole. You know, I'm just trying to finish up what you guys sort of stopped working on. You know, if I can do it, great. If not, it'll turn into a homebrew or homebrew hybrid or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, the wiring. I bought 2 junk pinball machines just for the wiring harness alone. A Force 2, and I forget what the other one was. It was too long ago. So now we're to the back glass. I think the playfield was out getting clear coated at this point. I'm not sure. But anyway, I had to come up with a design for the back glass. I asked Jerry, did you have an original design? He says, we did. And I said, well, when I come up to pick up the parts, yeah, I'd really like to have that. He searched in vain, couldn't find it. Couldn't find it at all. He couldn't even remember what it was. That was more of Joe's thing, you know. Joe was the designer. Jerry was just the spokesperson. So, you know, but Jerry kept all the paperwork. Anything legal tender, that's what Jerry held on to. That was his job. So I'm trying to match up the features of the back box, like the score displays and the cutouts and everything. Game over, shoot again, and the name of the game. So this is just a piece of paper that I was using to line up everything. And if the cutouts were too high, I had an art shop come up with this. You know, we still had the same logo and the Gottlieb logo and the window cutouts, but I had to cut all those windows out of the sheet of paper and put it in the push it against the glass and actually put the back glass in, so to speak. It's just a piece of paper. And make sure things got lined up. So I'm sort of jumping around here, but since I didn't have all the code necessary to make it work 100%, I had to buy a PLC. That's what that tan brick is on the left. It's a PLC stands for Programmable Logic Controller. You use a computer to hook it up, and you write what they call ladder logic. It's just a form of timers and normally open contacts and relay outputs. Like you can see the relays to the right of that, and I had put labels on them. So I didn't know anything about PLC programming, but I bought one, and Christmas Eve I got on this website called MrPLC.com typed in the Micrologix 1000 for an Allen Bradley and taught myself how to program the damn thing. Anyway, at this point, the playfield is clear coated. That's 7 layers of automotive clear coat that a buddy of mine from Mechanicsburg, Bill Heatherly, he actually did the clear coat for that. And I was running on a deadline. It was coming up to the 10th anniversary of the White Rose Game Room show, and I had invited Jerry, Joe, and Jim to show up, and Bill, that did the clear coat, says, "Hey, I got it done. I got it done 2 months before your show, but don't put anything on it for 2 months." What do you mean? Well, what, Bill? I'm totally oblivious to what he's about ready to tell me. He's like, it's not set up yet. It has to cure. It's going to take 6 to 8 weeks. You start playing this, it's going to start dimpling all over the place. It's going to turn into a golf ball. You tighten it down, it's going to like ooze out. The clear coat's going to ooze out from underneath the post that you're going to tighten down. So that was the hardest part, was just waiting. And I had about 2 weeks to throw everything together and make sure it played. Yeah. I do have a funky memory of, I had a 94 Honda Civic, and I had both playfields in the back seat, and the fumes were coming off of this thing. It was 30 degrees out in the middle, for whatever reason. I'm driving down the highway, getting high as a kite. I was so glad to get the playfield out of the car. Oh no, it was bad. I think I got sick for a few days too. But it's a funny story anyway. So once I got the game completed, yes, I built a manual for the game with all the rubber ring sizes and the lamp assignments for the lower playfield. I'm going to skim over this. I got the manual over in the other room too. Open it up, take a look at it. I shouldn't say I don't care. I don't mind. This game's here for you guys to enjoy too, and ask questions, And there's some other really nice games over in the showcase room as well. You got to check them out. So anyway, I made a manual for it, blah, 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 switch matrix. Yeah. And the manual looks just like a Gottlieb manual. It has the same font style. We go through, I did copy part of a manual, but every letter I needed to make, I don't have that on this picture, I don't think. No. Well, like the switch matrix, like the word critical, C, critical, wherever it is. A and L drop targets, I and C drop targets. And that's an interesting thing. So when you hit, I only had 4 lamps to work with for Mars God of War, for the 4 drop targets. Well, they had 8 lamps for the word critical. So all I did was just wire the 2 targets in series so both lights light up at the same time. So, it is what it is. Yeah, because it looks weird, because if you hit the 4 targets, nothing lights up until you hit the other target, and then they both light up. But I was, I had no way of changing the programming or the code or anything like that. But every little letter, I did this in Microsoft Paint. I would copy and paste every letter and line it up. Yeah, I know, I'm nuts. Nuts in the head. But it was all for the love of the hobby. So anyway, here's a couple pictures of the finished clear-coated playfield. And there's the back glass. I got, so a couple things in this in this back glass is that's a Hess truck, and the on the right hand side are playing blocks that kids use. Bob did all the artwork for this, and on the right are the white tanks. They're just a paper plate with the edge ribs, sort of photoshopped in there. We, we couldn't use, actual products. We had to come up with something original, again, you know. So anyway, there's a finished game. I want to get to something else here. Oh yeah, so I've been trying to donate this game to the Pinball Hall of Fame, and haven't heard anything. So if you don't have a will, get one, because you can get an executor to your will, and they have to execute whatever you have. And no, it sounds like I'm being a lawyer, but I'm going to say that if Bob Fezgian, the guy that owns the Gottlieb copyrights, or the Pinball Hall of Fame, doesn't want the game, we'll blow it up on YouTube with explosives as a live broadcast. If I can't have it, you can't have it. Yeah, and that's in my will. That's actually out of my will. I'm not lying. So if you haven't seen the video that TNT did, Todd Tuckey and I, and Jerry, we actually did a video at the York show about 7 years ago. It's number 1197. Check it out. Rick Mason, he did all the playfield work. Hopefully later on today, I will start posting something to Rick that we had the little seminar. I'll put something on there if you want to jump in and add your comments. That would be great. I think he'd freak out. Also, the same with Joe. Joe, like I said, he was the engineer of the group. He still does photography, product designer, and everything. But take a look at this. He has high friends in high places. Steve Ritchie, George Gomez, Roger Sharp. Those are the friends that come up on his Facebook page. I'll do the same thing for him too. I'll tell him that I had the seminar. If you want to add your comments, do the same thing. This is also about him. Game design is one of his things. And Bill Heatherly, I'll do the same thing. He did the clear coat. Let's see here. I don't want to mess this up. So back to this screen, we saw Pinside had critical mass, blah, blah, blah. And if you click on Pinside and you click on critical mass, you actually see the design team was Jerry, Jim, and Joe. So it's official. And let's see. Here's a funny one. I don't know what the hell. This comes from Bob Fezgian in 2005. I mentioned Gil's name's going to come up again. Well, I still didn't have his approval. I still didn't have Bob's approval from Gottlieb to even do anything with this machine yet. He had just the next day after he got my emails of the pictures of the playfield and the game and the cabinet, he says, "Oh, I'm going to take these to my meeting with Gil." He was having lunch with him the next day. Since his name was on the original paperwork from '82, that tied him into having approval as well. So just when you think you're all over and done with this, the good folks at Gottlieb still get in the way. And this is my licensing paper. I'm not going to dwell too much on this. I know I'm running real short on time. This is just me. It's all lawyer talk. I'm not going to bore you to death with any of this stuff, but it's 2 pages worth of licensee this, licensor that, and the official signatures had to be notarized, all that good stuff. So it finally became like an official prototype game at that point. The date was June 14th, a day after my birthday. Okay. So here's one of Joe's paperwork emails. It's not an email. This is before email. This is 81. This was Joe. He had his own place called Ad Factory in Harrisburg. This was from Valley. Has Valley letterhead on it. This was from the vice president of marketing saying, "Hey, I heard about your black hole experience. Boy, I'd really like to know if you'd like to come to work for us. I'd be more than happy to sit down with you and we talk about future developments on games." Well, sort of lost out on that. So anyway, before I get to the next slide, I do have some things to hand out. So I got those already. So the first person to raise their hand with the correct answer, if you were paying attention, what day is my birthday? I think I saw your hand go up first there. Yeah. No, I'll let you. I'll let you open it up if you want to. Well, I guess I can tell you. The paper cutout that I used to line up the back glass. This is it, and this is licensed by Gottlieb. I just got these 2 weeks ago. Yeah, it's the things still continue with the licensing on this mess. It says not for sale, and it has Gottlieb Development, copyright, blah 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 on the back. It has this show's name and date and the year on the back of it too, and they're all numbered. I have 5 other ones that I'll hand out on Sunday. I think around noontime or so. Next question. So I mentioned Middletown, Pennsylvania. What famous event happened in Middletown, Pennsylvania? And Jim, you're not. You're disqualified. No, he's from York. Yeah, you can give him a hint. Yeah, you got it. Which is why I didn't bring up this slide because this is Joe's email that said it's interesting to note that critical mass was practically built within sight of 3 Mile Island. One thing I didn't mention, and this is going to be number two of 10, is so a lot of the photographs that I took were actual photos on film with my Pentax camera or Polaroids back in the day, even up to '06, you know, because you know digital cameras and cell phones weren't around by then. What year was the first iPhone released? No, you're close. It is '07, yeah. It's more fun than I thought. And if you want those autographed, I can do that too, but not necessary. It's not necessary. Okay, so this one doesn't have anything to do with the game or anything, but it has to deal with the location. So I mentioned Middletown and I mentioned uh, Harrisburg. So this is Mechanicsburg is a town about 5 minutes across from Middletown across the Susquehanna River. What famous singer comes from Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania? I will accept either the name of the band or his name. Yeah. No, no. It is Poison. He got it. Way in the back there. He got Poison. Poison. Brett Michaels. Brett Michaels. Anyway, that's all I have, folks. If you got any questions, please ask me. I'm here all weekend.